Through the recent adoption of the Agenda 2063 in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Africa member countries came up with a 50-year plan for Africa's development, the way to discuss issues on economic integration among African countries.
Look at the fiber optic as an example. 10 years ago, the cost of bandwidth, the cost of internet, was so high. But because of the networking, you could see that one now getting reduced.
Almost the context of the engagement that we're having now with Uganda and many other member states is around the recent adoption of the second 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063. As you know, Africa had adopted Agenda 2063 and its implementation is broken up into 10-year phases. We've recently concluded in 2023 the first 10 years of implementation. And out of that process, there was an extensive evaluation and assessment of how we performed as a continent broadly in terms of our performance against the first 10-year implementation plan. And despite
During the meeting with the African Union delegation, the State Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Amos Lugoloobi, told the meeting that they have resumed with a 10-year development plan to strengthen trade and value addition to the exports.
Increasingly, trading amongst ourselves. We are receiving consignments from Kenya, and Kenya is also receiving from us. Trade amongst us, at least within the EAC, has grown tremendously. We are penetrating SADC. We are within the COMESA region, and we want to, to trade with the North. So trade within Africa is not yet there. It's still a long journey, but I think we are really beginning to move. And with the presence of Auda Nepad, we should be able to move very far.
The Chief of Staff at African Union Development Agency, Auda, Dr. Musingathi Sipuka, discussed the plan to polish the first phase of the 50-year plan for Africa's development.
Successes, I think there were some critical weaknesses that were identified, which we as a continent want to address. And some of those was really emphasizing the role of member states in the implementation process. It was in relation to coordination issues between national, regional and continental spheres across the continent. And as we developed the second 10-year implementation plan, it was then critical for us to see how we bring those areas of weaknesses and address them in the context of the second 10-year implementation plan.
The African Union Agenda 2063 is a 50-year plan created by African leaders that aims to develop Africa and achieve inclusive and sustainable development. Charity Marion Imnat and Juma Nsamba for UBC News.